Hey there, happy Thursday. It's Caroline Milton here with Milton Coaching Collective, bringing you your weekly episode of Engineer Your Energy. I've got some snow in the window outside. It has been a beautiful week of weather, from warm weather to cold snow. It has just been a joy to spend some time outside. So if you've been following me for a while, you know I love to talk about the importance of spending a little bit of time outside, the role that plays in your stress experience of stress in your body and your overall well-being. If you didn't know by now, I'm obsessed with all things human physiology, especially the interaction of our nervous system with other systems of our body. This has led me to be an advocate for women in STEM and preventing burnout in the workplace, and then also partnering with organizations to help ensure that they're being proactive about employee experience of burnout. You're just going to do better as an organization when you are being proactive, when you're being preventative, and even predictive with your employees' overall well being. So today's topic is extremely relevant. It is, how do we spot burnout? How do we identify when we ourselves are experiencing burnout? And then, if we're a leader of a team, how can we start to recognize burnout within our team or within our organization? Now, there are some really phenomenal tools for assessing burnout in teams. If you're interested in having your team assessed, please reach out to me privately. We can set up a burnout inventory assessment for your organization to really get a better understanding. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the signs and the symptoms of burnout. So, as we begin, let's first answer the question of what is burnout, because burnout has become very much a buzzword over the past several years. I heard someone the other day say that they were burned out on eating oatmeal for breakfast. And I had to laugh, because you're not burned out on eating oatmeal. You're bored of eating oatmeal. There's a very different thing going on with burnout. Burnout is not boredom. It's also not being tired due to like a big project or a long season. For example, accountants during this time of year. You know it's a big season. You know it's going to be long. It probably has a higher demand on your energy levels for the long term. Burnout, however, is feeling overwhelmed, tired, exhausted, chronically stressed for long periods of time. Ways that you can begin to identify burnout are through: one, exhaustion. Exhaustion happens when you are physically and emotionally drained. This is typically due to an overload and will eventually lead us to disconnect or distance ourselves emotionally and cognitively from our work. So, pretty easy to assess this for yourself. If you're on a team and you start to notice that there are employees on your team who experience a pretty gradual or even significant shift in their level of connection, collaboration with their peers, with their team members, they might be starting to feel the beginning effects of burnout. So again, exhaustion happens when we're physically and emotionally drained. This can lead us to disconnect or distance ourselves emotionally and cognitively from our work. Number two is cynicism. So cynicism occurs when everyone on your team, even people you like, start to bother you. You begin to distance yourself from those people by actively ignoring the things about them that make them unique, that contribute good to the team, that allow you to be engaged with them. And that then leads us to reduced overall empathy. We're unable to acknowledge that someone else might be struggling as much or perhaps even more than we are. And so we don't work collaboratively with them to improve their workload or to improve their experience of work. Number three is inefficacy. So, inefficacy is when we struggle to identify important resources and we struggle to find accomplishment and impact in our work. That leads us to ask questions like, why even bother with this? Does my work even matter? Who really cares about what I'm doing? Perhaps we're not getting feedback in our role. Perhaps we're not getting clarity, job role clarity. Perhaps we're not being involved in decision making that affects our work. And that can lead to that inefficacy, those feelings of why even bother? So, some of the physical symptoms that you might experience or you might identify as it relates to burnout include frequent headaches, getting sick more regularly, prolonged feelings of fatigue, digestive issues, restlessness, insomnia, heart palpitations. That was a big one for me, was heart palpitations. And various times in my life when I've experienced burnout, not knowing that I was experiencing burnout, those were often characterized by these unexplained heart palpitations. I remember in college once, I went to a specialist. My parents were concerned. I was complaining about heart palpitations, went to a specialist, no answer for what was going on. Didn't realize that it was due to the overwhelming amounts of chronic stress that I was experiencing. Chest pain correlates with those heart palpitations, can even lead to heart disease, other cardiovascular diseases, as well as changes in our pain tolerance. Maybe we become much more susceptible to pain, or perhaps we become just like totally immune to feeling physical pain. Next are our psychological symptoms of burnout, and those include panic attacks, reduced tolerance to stress. So we're getting stressed out all the time, and we can't explain why these tiny little triggers are just sending us off the deep end of our stress. We feel increased feelings of anger that don't correlate with our normal demeanor. We feel more irritated than usual, or more irritable, frustrated even. We have loss of hope. We feel helplessness. We're pessimistic. We might even veer into depression, anxiety, and a loss of enjoyment of things that we enjoy doing. These symptoms might be felt in abundance. You might experience some, but not the others. For me, I had debilitating high levels of anxiety, but I never experienced depression. Some people experience depression, but they never experience anxiety. So, again, these symptoms are not just check every box, but identify if you're feeling many of these symptoms. The last category is behavioral. So, a behavioral is a loss in productivity, increased absenteeism or presenteeism. So, presenteeism, if you missed my video about presenteeism, is when we show up to work unable to really work well. So, maybe we show up to work when we're sick, maybe we show up to work when something's happening within our body that is limiting our ability to do good work. And presenteeism happens when we're feeling burned out. Isolation, reduction in being collaborative, being a team player. We experience mood changes and increased dependence on alcohol and drugs. And this is something that I want to address because our culture over the past couple of years has really kind of made light of an increased dependence on alcohol as a way of soothing ourselves or numbing our feelings of stress and overwhelm. This is very common, right? And the things that we absorb, whether it's media, social media. So, an increased dependence on alcohol. If you feel like you have to have a glass of wine at the end of the night in order to wind down, you could be experiencing burnout. Not only that, irritability, job satisfaction, and tardiness are other behavioral signs of burnout. This is important. It's important for us first to be able to identify when we are creeping into the realm of burnout, when we're starting to identify some of these signs and symptoms of burnout. But as leaders of teams, it's also critical for us to be very aware of these as it pertains to the members of our team so that we can begin to have important conversations collectively about what we're doing to increase job resources and cultural resources and balance the job demands of our employees. So next week, we're going to discuss what to do once you've identified burnout within yourself. Beyond that, we're going to talk about what to do once you've identified that burnout might be prevalent amongst your team members. So make sure that you follow follow my account so that you can be alerted every time I go live. It's Thursdays at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. On another note, I have an exciting announcement that I'm making tomorrow, February 4th. So make sure that you tune in for that announcement. I'm really excited. It's something that has been in the works since the start of the year. So hope to see you then. If not, we'll see you next Thursday for your next episode of Engineer Your Energy. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon.